You open your eyes to the sound of horses. Hundreds of Mongol warriors are riding across the plains. In just a few decades, these nomads built the largest empire in history. How did they do it? Today, we're breaking down why the Mongols were basically unstoppable. The first reason was their military organization. Most armies back then were messy and disorganized. The Mongols were completely different. Genghis Khan created a system of groups of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. Every soldier knew exactly who they answered to. There was no confusion during battle. But the most powerful part was meritocracy. In most armies, you got promoted because of your family name. In the Mongol army, it didn't matter if you were born poor. If you were skilled and loyal, you could rise to the very top.
One famous example is Jebe. He was originally an enemy who shot Genghis Khan's horse. Instead of killing him, Genghis Khan was impressed by his skill. He promoted Jebe, and Jebe became one of their greatest generals. This system meant the Mongol army was full of talented fighters. The second reason was their insane mobility and horse archery. Every soldier had multiple horses. They could ride for days without stopping. They could cover up to 100 kilometers in a single day. Their main weapon was the composite bow. It was smaller than European bows, but much more powerful. A Mongol warrior could shoot accurately while riding at full speed. Here's a real example of how effective this was. At the Battle of the Kalka River, around 30,000 Mongols faced a much larger Russian army. Instead of charging straight in, the Mongols used hit-and-run tactics. They would pretend to retreat and lure the enemy into chasing them. Then they would turn around and shoot while riding away. The Russian army became disorganized and exhausted. When the Mongols finally turned to fight, they completely destroyed them. This showed how they could defeat larger armies without fighting head-on.
The third reason was psychological warfare and terror. The Mongols understood that fear could win battles before they even started. When a city resisted, they often killed almost everyone inside. Then they let a few survivors escape to spread the story. Other cities would hear what happened and surrender without fighting. One famous example was the destruction of the Khwarezmian Empire. After the Shah killed Mongol merchants and ambassadors, Genghis Khan invaded. Cities that surrendered quickly were usually spared, but cities that resisted, like Bukhara and Samarkand, were completely destroyed. The terror was so great that many cities surrendered the moment Mongol armies appeared. This strategy saved them time and soldiers. The fourth reason was their intelligence network. The Mongols were extremely good at gathering information before attacking. They used spies, merchants, and tortured prisoners to learn about their enemies. This is one reason they were so successful against divided enemies. When they invaded the Jin dynasty in China, they already knew it was weak. They used this information to make alliances and turn groups against each other. Because they gathered intelligence so well, they rarely attacked blindly. The fifth reason was adaptability. Unlike many armies, the Mongols were willing to learn from the people they conquered. When they first started, they weren't very good at attacking fortified cities. But after fighting the Chinese, they quickly adopted siege weapons. A great example was the siege of Baghdad in 1258. The Mongols used massive siege engines and even diverted rivers. Within just 2 weeks, Baghdad fell. They didn't just copy weapons, they also hired engineers and administrators from conquered lands. This made their empire much more effective at ruling new territories. So, why were the Mongols basically unstoppable? It wasn't just because they were good fighters. It was because they combined excellent organization, superior mobility, psychological warfare, good intelligence, and adaptability. They turned weaknesses into strengths. They were outnumbered many times, but their tactics usually gave them the advantage. Of course, no empire lasts forever. After Genghis Khan's death, the Mongol Empire eventually split into smaller parts. But for a period of time in the 13th century, they were the most dominant force on Earth. and very few armies could stand in their way. Thanks for watching.